Good morning, everyone. I'm so glad to have Kristal Schwartz with me and Isiah Castro. We're going to be talking about the upcoming Concerto Harp Ensemble number 1 that's going to be performed by the San Jose Youth Orchestra on March 26th. Do I have that right, Kristal?
Yes, yes.
Okay, fantastic. So I want to get started by introducing myself. My name is Cymber Lily Quinn. I'm a transformational music coach specializing in harp and voice. My goal is to support children and adults in learning music and achieving the goals the way they want. I used to work in corporate. I used to be a journalist, and now I've returned to music, and I have my own studio, Rosalani Music, in Denver, Colorado. I'm an award-winning professional harpist and singer, and I've been featured on National Public Radio and Hawaii Public Radio. I perform regularly on Clubhouse and Facebook Live, and I have 3 CDs of healing harp music. I've won 5 Big Island Music Awards and awarded Music Achiever by the National League of American Penwomen. So I'm really delighted to be able to share my harp life with all of you out here. I also want to introduce Kristal Schwartz, who is an experienced educator and harp entrepreneur, a dynamic ensemble director. She'll be directing the ensemble that will be performing this concerto. And she's a freelance performer with over 25 years of performing and teaching achievements. She graduated in 2007 with a master's degree in performance with honors, yoo-hoo, from the San Francisco Conservatory of Music and a bachelor's degree in performance from Thomas Edison University in 2005. She's a dedicated teacher who brings out the best in her students, concentrating on the individual details that produce an excellent performer. Her greatest joy is to see her students take flight, which they'll be doing on March 26th. She maintains a large, thriving private studio in the Bay Area with 30 students, beginner through professional levels, and her students have performed at the 2018 American Harp Society Institute and got accepted to the SFCM pre-college, placed in one of the competitors with Yvonne Lamoth Schwager, yeah.
Yep, that's it.
ASTA, San Jose Youth Orchestra, and the National Harp Competitions. Many of her students have gone on to work as professional harpists, and yearly Miss Kristal presents to harp community outreach. So lots more to say about you, but I'm going to let you say that about yourself in the interview. And I'd like to introduce our special guest this morning, Isiah Castro, who is the artistic and musical director for the Synesthesia Sinfonia. Am I saying that right?
Sinfonietta.
Sinfonietta, thank you. All right, let's get to know Isiah a little bit. Responsible for overseeing all programs and events, Isiah Castro is an award-winning conductor, composer, and founding member of the Synesthesia Sinfonia. Castro studied instrumental conducting and composition at California State University's Fullerton School of Music. His passion for music began at the age of 10 with piano and bass trombone, later inspiring him to express interest in conducting and composing at the age of 12. His most recent accomplishments feature being commissioned by the San Jose Youth Symphony, the compositional recognition from the American Harp Society, scoring original music for the Embark Dance Theater, and achieving status on the Grammy Awards ballot, and much, much more. Concurrently, Castro enjoys collaborating with solo artists and ensembles, creating new music one work at a time. He is in high demand by several organizations throughout California, as well as the nation, both as a composer and conductor. Not only does Castro serve as the artistic and musical director of Synesthesia Sinfonia, but he also serves as the conductor of Buddha's Light Youth Symphony Orchestra at Si Lai Tempo in Hacienda Heights, California, and serves as the instrumental music director at the International Pentecostal Church in Bellflower, California. He presently resides in Chino, California, where he is dedicated to the development and success of the Synesthesia Sinfonia. So delighted to have you both here today to talk about this new piece, the Concerto for Harp Ensemble #1, which to the best of our knowledge, we were talking about this before we got on the call today, this might be the only piece for large ensemble for harp. We don't know that for sure, but we think it might be so. So I'm very curious in how you two met and how this project got started. So Kristal, can you tell us how you met?
Sure, and Isiah, feel free to jump in and share your version. I think it was in 2018. The San Jose Youth Symphony was asked, San Jose Youth Symphony Harp Ensemble was asked to perform for one of the concert series at the National Harp Institute. And after that, I think we went to go see a performance of Mios Dios, which was 4 harps and a soprano singer. And I immediately knew that there was something special about this piece and this composer. And so I did my best to hunt you down and introduce myself.
Yeah, I remember I was having my lunch.
Yes.
Came up to me.
Right. I think it was the last day, right?
Yeah, it was the last day.
Okay. So I was kind of like, oh no, I'm leaving soon. I need to find this amazing composer. And so I think I just introduced myself and I said, I really appreciated your work. And I think you gave me your card or I found your number or something.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I don't know how many months later I contacted you and said, I have an idea. Would you be interested in writing something for Harp Ensemble? And specifically Harp Ensemble and Orchestra, because I knew that there's really nothing that, to my knowledge, out there for Harp Ensemble and Orchestra. I've been, directing Harp Ensemble for many years, and it's one of my pet peeves that there's not enough music out there for us. So that's what I remember how we met. What do you remember, Isiah?
So I was at the American Harp Society and the conference in 2018, not only because of my piece getting performed, but I had also won the 2018, and I hope I don't butcher the name of this award, but it's the Weiger-Lipke Sims Family Sacred Music Award. It's quite a mouthful, but yeah, I had won that award with a piece that I had written, Love Is, for SATB, choir, and harp. And so that was one of the reasons why I went to the conference. But at the same time, I was asked by the Los Angeles Harp Quartet if they can perform one of my pieces, which was Dios Mío. So I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So that's why I was at the event. And then, yeah, we crossed paths, and I guess the rest is history.
Well, maybe for you two, the rest of it is history, but the rest of us need to be kind of clued into the story.
Yes.
So tell us about the genesis of this piece. How did you guys decide to work together on this piece?
Well, so Kristal approached me, and like she said, that she really admired my music, which is very kind of her. And so I was, of course, flattered. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. And I'm always happy to write music, especially if it's for like a certain occasion or for a special ensemble. So when she came to me with the idea of, hey, there's like no literature out there that we know of that exists for a harp ensemble and like full-size orchestra. And I'm like, that's probably because it's not very practical, but that's not an excuse for it to not to exist. So she approached me with that idea, and I was like, that's a really cool idea. And at the same time, in the back of my head, I'm like, how am I going to write that? So it was certainly a process to write it. I remember we had several phone calls and exchanging messages and emails back and forth over the course of like 2-3 years. And I remember I started like writing out some ideas, like, here's an idea, what do you think? And she was like, oh, I love this is so lovely, I can't wait to see what you do with it. So yeah, it was quite a process. And then this was like 2019 when I started working on it. It was like early in the year when I started, and it took me about a year to really kind of get that first movement done. And then the pandemic hit. So it was like, okay, like, should I really focus on this at the moment, since like it's not going to get performed anytime soon? So I just kind of left it on the back burner for the moment. But then I was also at the same time I was thinking, okay, like, what can I do for a second movement? And I actually had a sketch of a piece that I had written that was for just single harp and strings. And I thought, you know what, I haven't done anything with this, and I think it would be a nice contrast to the first movement. So I kind of redid the orchestration and I expanded it for 4 harp parts so that way it can be done for an ensemble instead of just the 1 harp, and just kind of expanded upon that, and boom, second movement. And there are some sketches for a third movement. However, I think that'll come out maybe another year or 2 years or so. We'll see.
Yay.
Yeah, that's very exciting. So tell us a little bit about what the piece is about. What was the musical inspiration for this?
Well, really, I wanted to do my best to showcase harps, with an orchestra, and to showcase like their strength in numbers. So there's a lot of things where, there's like the different harp techniques, like with all the arpeggiations that kind of interweave with each other. And so you get this like really cool effect that you can't really get with just like 1 harp. And if you get all these harps together, you get this like very twinkly, almost like fairy-like effect, magical effect, that kind of just hovers on top of the orchestra. And it's a sound that you can't really get unless you have this many harps. There's other times where I have all the harps in unison, and that just gives all of these harps, 14 harps in the ensemble.
Yes.
All these 14 harps, a lot of power against an orchestra. Because if you just have like 1 or 2 harps playing with an orchestra, that can easily get covered up. But with a massive amount of harps, with a platoon of harps, you can be able to do that. And if they're all playing, strong, and even just their numbers alone, you can certainly just showcase like the beauty of the sound of the harp against an orchestra.
Yeah.
That's very exciting. I like that. I really get the picture you're talking about of the shimmering thing that kind of moves across the stage as the harps are playing, kind of like dancers doing the one dancer does their arms, another dancer does their arms, another dancer does their arms, that kind of thing. That is very magical and wonderful.
And I should say that Isiah wrote it for only 4 harps. So if you don't have 14 harps in your back pocket, it can be played probably by 4. And if the harpists are super advanced, I bet you could probably scale it down to 2. But again, I think the majesty would be lost. So I think 4 would be the ideal number if you want to go small.
So what is when you're talking about harpists, I know, Kristal, you have harpists of all abilities in your studio. Can beginners or intermediates play this piece? Are there parts written that they can play for that, or is it just an advanced piece?
Actually, Isiah wrote it very well. I didn't have to change a thing for the harpist, and that's actually rare. I do tend to tweak things a lot when non-harpists write for harp. So I didn't, nobody had any awkward fingering. Everything laid really well in the hand. I would say if you had more than 4 harps, then the beginners could double up any of the additional parts. So I would say you would have to have 4 maybe intermediate students at the minimum, and then you can scale it from there, adding in younger students. I think our youngest student is 11 right now that's performing this, and the oldest one is a senior in high school. So we have like 11 through 17 or 18. And there's both levers and pedal harps playing this piece.
Fantastic. And then what size orchestra do you need to really make this sound great?
Definitely a full-size orchestra. That's what the idea was, since this was a harp ensemble concerto. The idea is that you want to be able to, if you're going to go big, you got to do it right. So definitely a full-size ensemble. So full winds, full brass, pretty substantial size percussion section. Of course, the harp section, and there's even a celeste, and obviously full strings. The second movement is the instrumentation is, I don't want to say watered down. It is thinned out a bit because it's a second movement. So I wanted to kind of have it a little bit more exposed. But the first movement definitely is full orchestra. And I think the closing movement, whenever I get to that, will definitely be also for the full ensemble.
Fantastic. So this is a world premiere, yes?
Yes,
it is. And is it going to be just the one performance at the end of March, or are you planning other performances of this coming up?
So right now it's one world premiere broken up into 2 dates, which is a little confusing. The San Jose Youth Symphony has lots of ensembles, and so they did the movement one with its Philharmonic, one of the top orchestra, which is the full orchestra, and that's March 28th, coming up a couple weeks from now. And then they decided to premiere the second movement with their chamber orchestra, which is a full orchestra, but I think specialized players. And that's getting performed May 26th. I have to check the date. And yeah, so that's, I think, the happening. I would love it to be performed much more often. So after this, I'm hoping to reach out to other local orchestras and ask them if they're interested in programming this.
Well, I just so happen to conduct an orchestra myself. So
if you want any harpists to come down to LA, we can make that happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would love to do that.
Get a road trip going.
Yes. Get a tour bus.
Yes.
So Kristal, tell us a little bit more about the harp ensemble itself.
Yeah, so San Jose Youth Symphony has been around, I think, 47, 46 years. It's, I think, one of the oldest ensembles in the Bay Area. I've known about it since I was young, actually. And then in about 2014, I think, I approached them and asked them if they wanted a harp ensemble. And I said, hey, you guys, you're a wonderful ensemble. Do you want to grow harps? Do you want to grow a harp ensemble? And they were excited because I had a history of working with other schools and growing other harp programs. And so it wasn't my first time making a program. So we started off really small, maybe 5, 6 harps. And then over the years, it's just been amazing to see what it does to the students. So one of my passions is harp is a very isolated instrument. Usually there's just one of us, maybe 1.5 or 2. And, you play your solo music, but you don't get that ensemble or teamwork. So harp ensemble brings all the students together and they learn to listen and play and hear each other. And then it's still somewhat isolating in orchestra because usually orchestra has this presumption that there's only allowed to have 1 or 2 harpists. And so part of the vision of this piece was to showcase that you can have more than 1 harpist, more than 2 harpists, maybe even more than 4 harpists playing an orchestra piece, and it's not going to make the balance different. And it'll also help all these young students who are terrified of playing an orchestra. So the ensemble is a stepping stone. First, they learn how to, follow and lead and listen in a small group of harpists. And then the goal is to step them up to all the different various orchestras so that they learn to fit in without being terrorized or terrified that they're the only one.
I think that's really important because the harp is such an isolating instrument. We tend to be by ourselves, but also one of the really nice benefits of that is that they learn to listen to each other, to play together, to play in tempo, and to be able to feel a beat that's coming from somewhere else besides their own head.
I'm always impressed. So if a student's in there 1 year, they're usually terrified. If they're in there 2 years, they start to get comfortable. 3 years, they start leading. And by the 4th year, they're leading an entire section. And they're like the basis of the ensemble. And so watching that, progression is my favorite thing.
That's awesome. So where can people buy this music? Is it going to be available for purchase?
So at the moment, I really should work on this, but I intend to get it up on a website so that way it can get, be available for sale or for rent. But at the moment, it's not quite available. However, if someone were to reach out to me, I'd be more than thrilled to work with them.
Oh, fantastic. Maybe there's an assistant out there who would love to come and work with you and help you with that. We'll
perhaps
put that out there for you.
Maybe I can find the budget to do so.
Yeah, that would be lovely. At the end of the interview, we'll run a clip of the music so everyone can hear what it sounds like. But I just wanted to ask you both in closing if there's anything that I forgot to ask you or additional comments that you'd like to make about the concerto.
Well, I wanted to add how Kristal was talking about that well, how she claims that the parts are so well written for harp. I have had which a lot of composers don't have, the luxury of being friends with, harpists in my area. And I have one very close friend. Her name is Jessica Brizuela, and she is a music therapist and harpist. And we've been friends for a good number of years. And when we first met, I had hired her for a Christmas gig. And our friendship just like instantly started like that. And I told her like, hey, like I'm gonna write you a piece. And I would like always ask her like, hey, like what's the best way to write for harp? Like, can you do this? Can you do that? Like, how do you like your music to look? So I've had, because of that, the friendship I have with her, that relationship we have, I have gotten very comfortable knowing how to write for harp. And that certainly benefited me as a composer, and certainly has benefited this piece in particular, thanks to Jessica Brizuela. So just giving her a shout out for that.
Thanks, Jessica.
Yes. Every composer who wants to write for harp, it's great to have a harp friend.
Yes. Yes. And even a harp friend who will allow said composer to like fiddle with their instrument.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah, that's a big help. Just, because it's one thing just to learn the fundamentals, but it's another thing to get the instrument in your hand. I'm a trombonist and pianist organist. And so that's the fundamentals for those instruments are just way different from harp. And so the access I've had to harp, to a harpist, is absolutely, it's very, very helpful for a composer.
Yay. I think one thing that came to mind I wanted to add is that the second movement is very beautiful. It's very therapeutic in a way. I always think about it as all the space between the notes, because there's a lot of kind of sustained music and notes in the piece. It reminds me a little bit of, I hope I don't insult you or anything, like John Cage or Philip Glass with the beautiful repetitive notes. Do you see that correlation?
I was definitely going for kind of like a minimalistic type of approach for that music. So I guess that is the right direction to look at it.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite sounds. I love that. And I also love it because it's so peaceful. And so one of my other composer colleagues and friends, he's German. So he told me every time I talk to him, he says it in this German way. He says that the hand of a child who plays music is never the hand of a child who brings violence. And he always likes to remind me that like our goal as musicians is to like bring more peace to the world, like the lives of the students, the lives of the families and the communities. And for me, that the piece that you wrote is very peaceful, and it really brings that message out of let's bring peace, no more violence.
I'm glad you can take that away from that movement. It's so funny you say that, because the sketch that I have for the third movement is like complete opposite. It's a lot more furious.
That's good too. We can be angry at sometimes.
Yes.
And so needed right now with all the world events that are going on to bring some calmness and peaceness into our communities. Anything else you guys like to add before we wrap up?
Not that I can think of.
So wrapping up here, I just want to remind our viewers that the world premiere for the Concerto for Harp Ensemble Movement 1 by Isiah Castro will be produced by the Philharmonic Orchestra's Spring Concert, featuring the Harp Ensemble. This is the San Jose Youth Orchestra and Harp Ensemble, March 26th, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at the California Theater, 345 South 1st Street, San Jose, California. If you can't make it to that, or you love it so much you're ready for Movement 2, that will be the Chamber Orchestra Spring Concert featuring the Harp Ensemble on May 28th at 5 p.m. Pacific Time at San Jose State University's Recital Hall. And I want to thank Isiah and Kristal for joining me here this morning to talk about this wonderful new piece, and excited to have a large ensemble repertoire piece available for harps and orchestras. So go out there and listen to it. It's going to be great.
Thank you very much. I appreciated having this interview, getting the word out for this piece. I think it's really exciting for the harp community and the orchestral community as well.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Thank you both.
Thank you.
You.